Today on the channel, we're going to find out who'll be my bride tonight. I know the answer. The Horrors of Dracula NECA, Christopher Lee.
And the spirit of Ultimate Warrior will run forever!
Welcome everyone, Kyle here, and welcome back to the channel for another NECA unboxing and review. And today, we kick off the spooky season. We kick off October with one of the best, one of the greatest of all time, Christopher Lee as Dracula. But for all your NECA needs and everything else under the sun, make sure you're hitting up jaystoysandgames.com. Use discount code Kyle. Save yourself 15%. Gotta get a deal out there, 15%. Shout out to jaystoysandgames.com. But Christopher Lee's Dracula is here today. If I'm not mistaken, we saw this for the first time in 2023 at either San Diego Comic-Con or PowerCon. Saw it again this year at San Diego Comic-Con, and now here we are, end of September, early October 2024. It is in our hands, and I wouldn't say they've ran the course, they being NECA, with the Universal Monsters. We still got Frankenstein on the way, hopefully sooner than later. Where's that at, NECA? Where's mine, more specifically? Hopefully it comes in the mail soon. But they seem to be moving over to across the sea, across the pond, like a young Weezer back in the day. Shout out to the Pinkerton album. We are coming over there with Christopher Lee. Of course, Vincent Price is around the corner, and hopefully Peter Cushing not too far behind that. I believe we saw him at San Diego Comic-Con as well. So I'm here for some of the horror greats, some of the Hammer horror, some of the European horror, but I will take that step back. As a kid, I was Universal, as was my dad. Obviously, you follow the leader on that kind of stuff. And I think being from America, you know, the Hammer horror wasn't as exciting, wasn't as in your face as the Universal Monsters were over in this side of the pond. Where overseas, I think you got the Universal Monsters pretty good as well. But you had the Hammer hour, the Hammer horror right there in your face, continual, especially if you were a kid in the late 60s and the 70s. For me, it just seems strange because you always go off your first impressions. I always thought Dracula, it's Bela Lugosi, you know? That's what I thought of. So it was weird seeing this stuff, and I think maybe it was the Sci-Fi Network back in the day. I could be wrong, but one of those would show some Hammer horror films, and it just never connected with me for one way or the other. And also, you guys know my dad, longtime friend of the channel, of course, my dad. He absolutely refused. Back when he was doing reviews, we talked about would there be Hammer figures, and he said there's no way in a million years he would do those reviews because he was not a Hammer guy. He did not like that. He's Universal. Hammer he's got no time for. He didn't have any time for anybody in the 80s, the Leatherfaces, the Michael Myers, any of that kind of stuff. Outside of our friend Pinhead, that was the only one my dad has enjoyed and liked. So this wasn't for him, and by proxy, not really for me. But then you fast forward to my college years, I start seeing some more of these movies, and I was really getting into them. Of course, you guys know, longtime viewers of the channel know, Kyle right here, one class away from a minor in film. Yes, it's true. Hopefully that one class could be maybe Hammer horror films. That would be a good one for me to take. We'll see what happens when I retire from my day job. I'm going to get that minor. I'm going to get that done. Hopefully my credits still hold up some 50 years later or whatever it could be at the time. A long way to get there. Long story short, I am very excited to have Christopher Lee right here in my collection. Bring on the rest, and he is really a Dracula to an entire population of the world. And now can we get Blackula around the corner as well? I'd like to see Blackula. Say what you want. I'd like to see Blackula made by NECA. Hopefully that comes in the future. But of course, we're going to do this unboxing like we do all the other unboxings on the channel. We're going to take a look at the packaging. We're going to talk about it. We're going to unbox it. We're going to talk about it. We're going to see where it goes from there, and I should say it'll be interesting to watch distribution on this because obviously Christopher Lee is a classic out there. His time in Star Wars, his time in many other movies over the years. Of course, Lord of the Rings as well, my dad's favorite Christopher Lee performance, of course. It'll be interesting, though. He is not a super household name in America. It'll be interesting to see how deep the execution is on these. We've seen London After Midnight, a very deep cut. We've seen distribution lack at best, I think. So it'll be interesting to see how easy this is to get a hold of. If you're a long gamer, this could be one of those ones that's a little bit dangerous. So buyer beware on that, or watch out for that is what we'll say. We got the cool poster. I guess this is probably the poster from a movie back in the day as well. The Horror of Dracula. And he sees a lot of horror. We know Dracula out there, seen all kinds of stuff. And it says, who will be his bride tonight? That's what I ask my wife every single night as well. Which lucky girl in the neighborhood will be my bride tonight? We'll see what happens there. But the horror of Dracula looking good. Very, I don't know, a moment in time is the poster art on this one. It feels very classic. It feels very hip. And I could see this in like somebody's house as artwork on the wall. That's how that kind of stuff goes. Horror of Dracula on the side over here. And of course, this Dracula, we got to see his fangs. There's a lot of people in the Dracula, the Bela Lugosi days, they think they see his fangs. They never see his fangs. We don't see any blood either. Whole different game in the Hammer House of Horror, as we do know as well. Looking good. Hammer over there. Jibber, jabber, UPCs down here. And we got some glamour shots of the action figure looking good. 3 heads. Going to be tough to choose how I want my Christopher Lee. And there it is right there. Look at that big bubble window. It looks like he's bagged up there. He looks like Dexter from the show Dexter. He's got all his plastic on. He doesn't want to get messy, I guess. And who can blame him? The blood, it gets messy. It gets splattering, as we do know. But we're pulling it out here. Dare I say we're going to whip it out? We're going to whip it out right now. Off to the side. See you later. I do save those packaging, so I'm probably going to hang on to that, of course. But he's bagged up. He's ready to go. He's locked in. I'm going to take this offline. Get Christopher Lee's Dracula out of the package. And we'll be back talking all things the horror of Dracula. All right, we got the horror of Dracula, Christopher Lee's Dracula out of the package, and let's dive into the accessories. Always the place we're going to start. We'll start with the hands here, and he's got the mangled hands out. He's coming to get you. He's going to suck your blood. Got those hands right out of the package. And thankfully, we got the what you gonna do, brother, when Dracula comes after you. We got that hand going on, or he's going to just touch you on the nose. He's going to pull one of those moves too. But we do got that hand, and then we got 2 gripping hands here for a little candelabra action or shovel action. But we got 2 gripping hands. Nice ring on the hand as well. Dracula and his rings, always fashion forward with Dracula. That's how he gets all these brides. He's so fashionable. He's obviously debonair. He's like a young Geraldo. Very Rico Suave-esque is Christopher Lee, especially in the Dracula game. Now we get the shovel here, of course, digging up bodies, digging holes, doing all that kind of stuff, taking souls. You know how it goes if you're the Undertaker or Dracula. An old-timey shovel here, but of course, a lot of time around the shovels with Dracula throughout the movies. There's a lot of scenes. I can't remember if it was the horror Dracula or a different one where Christopher Lee's Dracula, of course, and Peter Cushing, Mr. Van Helsing himself, fighting it out over a grave and stuff. It might actually be... Is it not the first one? The first one is really known for that great final scene where there's jumping around, they pull the big curtains off, and the sun comes in. If you watch just that scene, that's the best scene of the movie, if you ask me. But shovel, gotta have it, I guess. And we're gonna have him coming around like an old gravedigger. Who knows? Now we're getting down to the old candelabra action. It's just very stereotypical for a Dracula, of course. He's not putting lights in his house. This'll do. A little candle will do. And these are great accessories you can use with different toy lines if you wanted to as well. Got a nice flame going on with this candle. A big old candelabra. Of course, back in the old-timey days when you lit your house by a candle, you'd have ornate things like this. This was a thing. This was a power move back then is what this was. So we get a regular candle. And then we get one that caught fire, of course, catching fire. That was in one of the movies. I'm guessing it was Horror of Dracula as well. We got the, because everything I say, it's, well, I get all the movies confused, but obviously this is the Horror of Dracula version, so you would think it all relates to this movie here. But we do get a candelabra on fire. A bad scene right there. Nobody wants their house burned down, especially a castle. Nobody wants a castle burned down. But now we get into the Billy D. Williams segment of the show here. Shout out to Lando Calrissian. We got cape season, and we got another fine, beautiful NECA cape right here. Soft good cape, hard plastic collar up here. Truly a power move. Would be more powerful if the collar was turned up, as we do know. But you got fangs, you can use them. I do like that you pop the head off, slide this over, pop the head back on. It kind of clamps it in there, so you don't have to worry about it falling off. It's not going to come off you. We've had capes in the past from a lot of toy lines that don't stick on so well. This one's going to work all day long. Beautiful, beautiful soft goods cape. Just like the NECA Universal Monster Dracula figures with those beautiful capes, it carries on with Christopher Lee right here. And now we carry on our wayward son like a young Kansas over to Christopher Lee right here. And we're going to start with the head sculpts here. A young Christopher Lee with his whole life ahead of him. Something like that. But Christopher Lee, of course, wasn't he in the army over there in Europe and stuff? he was an actor in like plays and all kinds of different things, but I think Dracula really put him on the map. And then I think he even became Sir Christopher Lee, if I'm not mistaken. Went on to tons and tons of Hammer movies, other movies, a lot of cheesy 80 movies, of course. And then he did join ranks in the Star Wars franchise, amazing over there, and then even better in the Lord of the Rings. But this is a young Christopher Lee, very, very good-looking gentleman, if I don't say so myself. Maybe I'll be his bride tonight. Who knows? But looking very nice. And if I'm not mistaken, he was a big, tall dude. He was like 6'5", 6'6", not quite as tall as my dad, of course. And maybe that's why my dad didn't respect him, because I don't know if my dad respects anybody under 6'8". It could be. I don't know. When you're that tall, you're a giant. It could be. I don't know. Dad will have to fact check that. Only way, Dad, come on the channel. Come on the channel. Fact check it all day long. We'll get the Q&A going. Shout out to my dad, of course, as always. Christopher Lee looking really good here. Got the slick back hair. Looks like a very posh, we're going to use the European language, a posh late 60s, 70s gentleman here that just might be Dracula at the end of the day. But looking very good. All day long you hand me this head. That is Christopher Lee. Absolutely stunning, absolutely beautiful. But now we get into the second heads here, and I really wouldn't mind to have multiples of this figure, but man, I got to use these other heads instead of this one. Plain Jane regular Christopher Lee is really nice. He's going to welcome you into his house, and he'd love it if you'd welcome him into your house. But this one over here, you got the blood down the sides, and that's what my dad didn't like about the Hammer horror. He didn't want to see the blood and all that stuff. He wanted to use it the Alfred Hitchcock way. Use your mind, because that's more scarier. And sometimes it is, sometimes it isn't, I would say. Bloodshot red eyes on this one, blood coming down. A little bit of fangage on the corners of the teeth, and then, of course, the same hairdo over there. Talk about night and day between these two heads. But love the blood going on. And then the third head, we're going full-on maniac here. Even more bloodshot eyes, blood all over the face. The hair is messed up a little bit. He's been sucking some blood down. He's got blood on the fangs. He's just taking it to the limits right here. So, boy, you get three different versions. You get totally stoic to the far other side of the fence where he's just full-on bloodbath raging right there, sucking blood on everybody. All three head sculpts, absolutely phenomenal if this is your thing. Very tough to decide, but I think I'm going to go full-on crazy. Why wouldn't you? It's a display. You want to catch your eyes? I'm going full crazy Christopher Lee's Dracula. But now getting into the body and the figure itself, you get a pretty stereotypical plain Jane suited here. A black suit, got a white undershirt going on. You got a little bit of the cuffs sticking out of the suit coat here. Black suit pants, black pants. Looks like a guy getting ready to go to work. It looks like me getting ready to go to an important meeting at work. This is what it feels like. This could put my head on here. This would be Kyle going to work. He does got that little pendant right there on the little Dracula pendant over here looking good. High collar looking nice. Really three collars in this one when you include the cape. So, man, he's really representing those power moves here. Articulation, arms all the way around for us. A single jointed elbow, of course, side to side over there. Hands removable back and forth, side to side. Head removable back and forth, side to side. A little waist articulation, no ab crunch. Those big old Christopher Lee splits, even a suit, he's going to do them. Legs do go up, single jointed knees, side to side, ankles back and forth, up and down. So our pretty usual NECA articulation, I will say very smooth articulation, not loose, extremely tight, but movable. So sometimes you get it where they feel a little brittle. Not the case right here. Articulation feels really, really good on this Christopher Lee figure. And it does look very plain, as I mentioned. Almost reminds me of the Invisible Man, a very another plain Jane figure outside of the head. Same thing with Christopher Lee. Does he fit on a Ringside Collectible stand? Use discount code Kyle. Save yourself 10% at Ringside Collectibles. And what do you know? Fits on a stand just right. Just right as old Christopher Lee. Looking beautiful right here. Very happy to get this one. Kind of a bit of a surprise. I knew it was coming. I just didn't know when. And then there's my mailbox. There's Christopher Lee. I said, he's going to bite me. He's going to drink my blood. And then I calmed down and I unboxed it and I was all ready to go. Really, really like this, and we're kicking off, of course, October, the spooky season as it's known, with a lot of other horror unboxings to come. We'll have skeletons, we'll have monsters, we'll have all kinds of different stuff, maybe some fun top fives as well to celebrate the holiday that is Halloween. Figured nothing better to kick it off than the NECA Christopher Lee figure. Bring on Vincent Price, bring on, of course, Peter Cushing, and all points in between. I am here for that. I'm here for more classic monsters. I'm here for that all day long and twice on Sunday. But of course, speaking of Dracula, I got to bring out the Bela Lugosi Dracula. Absolutely amazing. The black and white one is good. The color one is good. You can't go wrong with the NECA Dracula Bela Lugosi versions. But it'd be really interesting, you guys in the comments, which one is your Dracula? Is it Bela Lugosi? Is it Christopher Lee? Very, very tough. For me, it's always going to be Bela Lugosi. That's my first time I ever saw him. That's what always the defining Dracula is for me. But I do find enjoyment in the Christopher Lee one. But not everybody does back and forth, of course. But I'd be interested to hear what your Dracula is. Would have to imagine more European leaning over here, and then more U.S. leaning over here. With Spain and Canada, all points in between. All points in between. We'll see. But I'd be interested to hear a little non-scientific poll down there in the comments. And then, of course, let me know your thoughts on this Dracula Christopher Lee figure. Is it a pickup for you or a pass? Be interested to hear that as well. What else do you want to see from the Universal Monster line? What more do you want to see from the Hammer Horror line? It would be cool to see as well. You made it this far. Don't forget to like the video. Don't forget to subscribe to this channel and my other YouTube channel. Videos every single day, as you guys know. And even early access to all the videos, plus the glamour shots, Q&As, dog stuff, pizza stuff, you name it. It's all going down on the old Patreon channel. Check it out. Link in the description down below. PresslingTees.com. Search Kyle Peterson. And don't forget social media. SirPaul64 on the X. The _Kyle_Peterson on Threads. And on Instagram. So for the horrors of Dracula, I'm Kyle. See you guys all real soon.